What are we doing today? Sriracha hot chili sauce. Shake well. Put sriracha on a few things. Put it on my scrambled eggs. I love Cuban sandwiches.
Have you been to the little place by...
Of course I've been there. Have you been to a place? Yeah, everybody knows that place. But we can't tell you because then it's not that little place anymore. It becomes popular and you ruin it. Hipsters. Or are we the hipsters? Are they the hipsters or I the hipsters? Having a snobbish Cuban place that you don't tell anybody about, that's kind of hipstery. But now I feel like we have to have Cuban sandwiches today. I'm getting hungry. Let's get on with this then. Hello, adventurers. So in today's episode, I want to talk about private messaging or direct messaging. So while social media is great to tell the world about a lot of things or to interact with your team, there are times that you want to use it to have a private conversation. Too many people are having private conversations to everybody, and there is buttons that let you have private conversations. In life, we tend to communicate how we would like to communicate. And so what happens is you tend to want to communicate based upon your preferences, not the other preferences. But what is most thoughtful is to think about the other person and how they communicate. So I heard a buddy of mine say, hey, when you're duck hunting, you go where the ducks are. So I have certain friends who they're not on Facebook, but they're on Twitter. So I'm gonna go to Twitter and I'm gonna send them a message. Let's look at the best way to communicate is and use that. And so we're gonna show you the best way to communicate in all those platforms, including not just individually, but in private groups. So in Instagram, let me show you where that is. When you are in your home feed, right up here, this is called your Instagram inbox. And so if you get an inbox message, which some of you could have been on Instagram since the beginning and never got one of these because it is a very rarely used feature of Instagram, but in some cases it's pretty cool. So if I go on that inbox, you see that it's actually something that I use. This is what are called direct messages on Instagram. To create a direct message, pretty easy to do. I'm going to doing right now. You'll notice, I'll just take an image here and I can do everything like our normal interface, but you see I'm going to direct. So if I wanted to share it with all the followers, the screen is exactly the same, it's just right next to it is direct. And I can say, ahoy matey, and then I select who do I want this to go to. Now I can message up to 15 people at one time using this. So let's say I want to send it to Jeremiah, and then I can hit and go right from there. So think about with Instagram, another way to do this is when I'm going through those direct messages, I might just say, you know what, there's a really great pic that I had that might not be something that I want to post on Instagram for that day, but it was maybe a special moment on that adventure. That's where I might just send it to that person through the direct message and just say, hey, thank you, I had a great day on this adventure. That is something that could be used as kind of a digital thank you, which is cool. But if I wanted to send a group message, let me show you another way how you can send a direct message, is that actually sending one like you would normally, just like you're regular doing Instagram. Let's say I want to encourage some people for the day, some people on my team, and I can write, go crush today. And then I can go right over to direct. So a lot of people don't realize, like, I want it to everybody on Instagram. I just want it to a team, a small group, up to 15 people. I can do that. And then I can pick all of them here. So we're here on Twitter, and on Twitter, it's called a direct message. I'm going for that little mail icon. Depending on where you are, if you're on the web, again, the button might not be in the same place, but it does the same thing. And that has all of my direct messages. These are the private conversations that I'm having. Simple as, hit here, I'm gonna do a direct message. And here's users that I might be having conversations with already. And so I'm gonna say here, hello, adventurer. And what's cool is I also can, if I wanted to, add a photo to that. So I simply hit send, and there I go. And that would go back and forth. So my buddy Dan and I, like you can see, we're having a conversation and he went and added a picture to that. So here's a big pet peeve of mine is that when I follow somebody, I get an automated message through an app that says, hey, thanks for the follow. To find more information here. You have to realize is that if I am getting a private message, I'm gonna treat that as personal. So I would treat it like I was sent junk mail. And if I sent junk mail, then you're a spammer. The idea there is you do not want to use automation for something as personal as a message. I feel like not thoughtful at all. That is borderline offensive. More and more that hurts your influence. And at least with me, I actually put you in social timeout So that means your posts get muted. So now you've lost the opportunity to get my attention here, as well as that's where people can report you as a spammer. So there's a new feature that just came out with Twitter, along with the ability for you to now post videos, is for you to do a group chat. You can do up to 20 people. It's not doing it here in the iPad app, but on the desktop or on your smartphone, it's gonna allow you to do multiple for those small types of group conversations. And so that is now a new feature that you can take advantage of for your team. So now I am over in Facebook. And what Facebook is, it's not called direct messages like it is on Twitter and Instagram. It's called private messages. And so when I go to this button, there's actually a separate app called the Messenger app. You know, if I have a lot of messages, I can search for one in particular. But if I'm gonna go to a new message, pretty simple. I'm gonna go to that new message, shows me if somebody's online right now, if they're in that Messenger app, and I'll select one of them there. So I'm just sending a message to my friend Pam. Generally, I'm just using the text, but there's other things that you can do, again, from pictures and stickers and audio. And then I just hit send, and now I have this new conversation starting in there. Now, on these individual messages, I can go and you'll see that I can swipe them. So when I swipe them, this is a way for me to kind of keep it organized, that I can delete. I could mute the message, which just is that it's not going to interrupt me in Messenger. That's all that mute does. Sometimes I'm on a group message and it's blowing up and it's like I'm in the middle of something, so I have to mute it for a little bit. But if I want to, I can go to more, and this is where I can also archive it, or if I feel like it's spam, or sometimes I'll read it, but I need to mark it as unread because it reminds me I got to go back and take care of something. You want to keep on top of this, so because thoughtfulness is following up. And so those are some tools I do there. The other thing I want to show you though is group messaging. So for example, this group message here, this is actually my life group, and they're having conversations. What a lot of people don't know in these group messages is, for example, I can add more people to that group message if I want to. If I wanted to, I could leave that group. Some people, what they do is they leave the group because it is just way too much going on. What they really should have done is gone to notifications and just mute them for 24 hours or 8 hours, or until I turn it back on, instead of they're leaving the group, but they didn't know I could have gone to that button. Even if I'm managing the group, I can change the name, the group title. And so this is great when you're starting out kind of an impromptu adventure and hey, we got to get all that information together. So there's a lot of great functionality here in a group. Besides managing here, I can also go over and again, also swipe. Same things, the only difference is that it's added leave group. Now I will use leave group for things like group message that has 40 people in it. It has nothing to do with me. To me, that's spam. So I'm just going to leave that group. But most of the time, all I need to do is actually use the mute button and say, mute it for an hour, so that if there is something coming in, I don't see that. Okay, so now what I'm doing is I'm showing you messages in Facebook. If you ever need to know where to go, it's just simple. It's facebook.com/messages, and you're going to get to this page. And you'll notice that on my group, it even says, hey, this conversation is muted, because I just did it over on my iPad mini. In these actions, you'll see these are the same things as when I went over and there was the more information button in the app. And this, again, I can add people, I can edit the participants, I can leave the conversation. All of this is right here. What it does though, that I think is really smart, is it's already telling me is, hey, do you just want to create a group or an event? Because you're with all these people. And so it might have started into an impromptu thing that, you know what, we should actually turn this into a group. That's super smart that it does it. Or, hey, let's turn this into an actual event. So I might start a group chat message about planning for an event that actually then becomes that. Here's one of my friends, and I can, again, go to actions and I can say, open it and chat if I wanted to chat back and forth, delete the entire conversation I can, or if I just wanted to delete parts of it, then I can go to parts of it. But what I really wanted to show you was that if you look up in that inbox, this is where you're gonna see other. This is the dreaded Facebook other folder. What it does is it is trying to capture junk mail for you. I have several messages that end up in the other folder. Just this morning, I saw one that was somebody that I spoke over the weekend, and they had something really nice to say. And so the thoughtful thing was to reply. Well, that is where I could select that message, go to my actions, and I can move it to my inbox. Unfortunately, the The other folder is not available in the mobile, and you don't need to check it every day. I check it about once a week. But you'll notice this isn't the message I'm talking about because they actually say, "Hi Jeff, how are you doing today?" And this is a spam message. So this is where I can say I'm going to also mark it as spam and move it to the spam folder or report the individual. So I'm just going to move it to the spam, and now they are gone forever. So when we're messaging Instagram and we have Twitter and we have Facebook, while we can send it to groups, too many times, like with Facebook, you can send it up to 250 people. There's no reason you need to send it to 250 people. That's not thoughtful. If you want more results, be more thoughtful. And thoughtful means smaller, not bigger in many cases. You want to look out for a couple things. I wouldn't send more than 3 to 5 messages at a time. So even in Facebook, it's gonna say, hey, you need to slow down because you're gonna get blocked or you're gonna be suspended. Really, the most important thing is make it personal. That's what's important, is I wanna feel like if you're messaging me, I'm not just part of a group thing. Remember that your adventure is not an obligation of somebody. You do not have to be desperate about it. Treat your messages that it's a privilege to be on this adventure, not that you're desperate. No, if you just would have slowed down and been thoughtful, you would have gotten a higher percentage of influence. So here's what I want you to do. I want you to pick any one of those, the one that maybe you need a little more practice and you want to play around with. And so it can be any question about social media, about Star Wars, not Star Trek, life. Send me a message, I will message you back, and that would be a great way to practice. Remember, your adventure is a privilege. It's not somebody's obligation, and it begins right now.